Chapter 1. The Night That Changed Everything. The dazzling skyline of Shanghai painted the night with hues of gold and crimson, neon lights flickering like distant stars against the inky sky. Inside an upscale rooftop bar, the city's heartbeat pulsed beneath the glass floors, blending with the laughter of young professionals celebrating fleeting victories. Lin Yue sat among them, radiant in a sleek black dress that hugged her figure, her sharp features softened under the dim amber glow. Her long dark hair cascaded over her shoulders, and her piercing eyes held the confidence of a woman who had built her empire with grit. But tonight, her guard was down, melted by the warmth of old friends and the intoxicating pull of nostalgia. Across from her sat Zhao Ruyi, her college friend and once her secret crush. His easy charm hadn't faded with time, nor had the spark in his eyes when he looked at her. They laughed over shared memories, glasses clinking, the gap between them closing with every teasing remark. "Come on, Yue," a friend urged, slurring slightly from the drinks. "For old time's sake, recreate that college dare, get close like before." Rui grinned mischievously, leaning in. His face hovered inches from hers, their breaths mingling in the space charged with unspoken tension. His hand grazed hers under the table just a touch, but enough to send a ripple through her chest. Their lips were almost about to meet, not in an innocent gesture, but something dangerously close to betrayal. But just then, Yue's gaze flickered past Rui's shoulder and there he was. Li Yue, her husband, stood at the bar's entrance, his tall figure cloaked in shadows. His sharp jaw clenched subtly, his dark eyes fixed on the scene, not with rage but with a quiet devastation that cut deeper. He didn't make a scene. He simply turned and left, swallowed by the crowd. Yue's heart skipped not out of guilt, but surprise. She excused herself hastily, catching up to him outside where the cold air sobered her. "Wei, what are you doing here?" she asked, forcing a casual tone. Li Wei's face was unreadable. "Just passing by." "Don't look at me like that. It's not what you think," she snapped defensively, her pride stinging. "Rui's just a friend. Don't start imagining dirty things." Wei didn't argue. He simply gave a slight nod, turned his back, and walked away, leaving her standing in the street, convinced she'd done nothing wrong. But somewhere deep inside, something fragile had cracked. Chapter 2. The Fractured Line. Days drifted into weeks, the silence between Yue and Wei growing colder. She busied herself with work, brushing off the distance as his usual brooding nature. Then Zhao Ruyi reappeared, this time uninvited at her office. He brought coffee, his boyish grin disarming, as if nothing had happened. "I've been thinking about you, Yue," he said softly, setting the cup on her desk. "That night, it felt like we picked up right where we left off." Yue chuckled, masking her unease. "Don't be ridiculous, Rui. We're just friends." But Rui's smile faded slightly, replaced by something more vulnerable. "Maybe I should back off then," he mumbled, guilt tripping her with downcast eyes. "I don't want to ruin your marriage. Maybe I should leave." The words lingered in the room like smoke. Yue hesitated, not wanting to seem cold. "You're overthinking. Our friendship is pure." Yet that night, when she returned home, Li Wei was gone. His closet half empty, his toothbrush missing, no note left behind, just silence. Still, Yue's pride refused to crumble. "If he's that insecure, let him sulk," she muttered, convincing herself she was right. But the hollow echo of her own voice was the only reply. Chapter 3. The Price of Pride. Years passed. Yue's empire grew, her name etched in the business world's elite. But success was a poor companion when her bed remained cold, and her heart emptier than she admitted. Eventually, the facade cracked. She began looking for why not out of loneliness, but an ache she couldn't define. From city to city, she followed whispers of his name in luxury circles, hidden estates, private parties, until one day, in a quiet town, far from Shanghai's glittering skyline, she saw him. Lin Yue stood under cherry blossoms, laughing softly with a woman beside him. She was simple, not glamorous like Yue, but her warmth was undeniable. Yue's chest tightened, not with jealousy, but with a bitter cocktail of regret and realization. She approached hesitantly. Wei. He turned, his eyes meeting hers with a polite distance, not even a flicker of the man who once loved her. Yue, he greeted calmly, as if addressing an old colleague. I've been looking for you, she whispered. I miss you. Lin Yue smiled faintly, his eyes gentle yet distant. I don't. No anger, no bitterness, just truth. Yue stood there, her success meaningless, her pride shattered. She wanted to say she was sorry, but the words never left her lips, because deep down, she knew some mistakes can't be undone, and some hearts, once broken, never return. Chapter 4. The Stubborn Heart. But Yu wasn't ready to give up. She followed him, finding excuses to cross paths. She'd show up at his favorite cafe, at business events he rarely attended, pretending it was coincidence. We can fix this, she pleaded one evening, cornering him in a quiet park. I was foolish, but people change. Lin Yue looked at her, his gaze steady but devoid of warmth. Yue, this isn't about change, it's about respect. You didn't lose me because you made a mistake. You lost me because you never thought it was one. I do now, she snapped, frustration boiling over. I was stupid, blind, call it what you want. But we had something real. Wei's lips curved into a sad smile. We had something real. You just realized it too late. I hope you find peace, Yue, he said softly, walking away.